I've opened up my heart. I'm at the start. I save the world.
Hello, everybody.
I save the world.
Thank you for watching and listening. A special shout out right now to everybody who might be watching the recorded video. We make a recording of all the Sunday gatherings. We post mine on 3 different platforms. So they are on YouTube, they are on Rumble, they are on BitChute. So please subscribe to whatever platform you are watching these on. And hit the like button. Punch that like button. The more likes these videos get, the more they're shared. And we want these talks to find the biggest audience possible. Also, leave a comment. Usually after you subscribe, you can leave a comment. And if you leave a comment, I'd love to read those, and I will probably respond. Though maybe not for a couple of days. Okay. So I'm Reverend Tony Ponticello. Glad you're here. I'm the miracle minister who, where's a pre-scholar? Not many of us out there. Yesterday was August 16th, and August 16th is the anniversary of my arrival in San Francisco. I arrived in San Francisco on August 16th, 46 years ago yesterday, in 1979. And I always remember that. That date is kind of indelibly in my consciousness for a variety of reasons. And I remember that and commemorate it every year when we go through it. It is also the 38th anniversary. August 16th is the 38th anniversary of an event that was called the Harmonic Convergence. And I've spoken of that many times too. And the Harmonic Convergence was a unique, synchronized, global peace meditation that was in 1987. And considering this was well before the internet was really established, and it may have been just in its beginning stages there, but before it was widely accepted and used, considering that that word spread all over the planet, and there were millions of people who observed the harmonic convergence all over the place. I won't get into a big story about how it was organized, but it became what we probably call now a viral thing, and people were encouraged to go up to sacred places, usually high places, mountaintops, and be there at dawn. And at dawn to channel in light and spiritual healing energy from the ethers, from the heavens. And it was supposed to usher in a new age on the planet Earth. And on August 16th of 1987, the Community Miracle Center was a new organization. We had been just formed a few months earlier. And again, 38 plus years ago. And we hooked into the Harmonic Convergence. Some of the people who were coming wanted us to do something. And we decided to go up to Twin Peaks, which is the mountain in the middle, or the mountains in the middle of San Francisco, be there at dawn. We had a party the night before at Reverend Larry's house, and everybody was encouraged to be there at dawn. And I had the thought of sending a press release to the San Francisco newspapers that we were going to do this, and they picked it up. And it was on the front page of the Examiner or the Chronicle, whatever it was at that time. And when we got up there to Twin Peaks we got there before dawn when it was dark, on August 16th, there were hundreds of people up on Twin Peaks. So it was really quite an experience for us. For those of you who don't know, Twin Peaks are twin peaks, 2 peaks close to each other, right in the geographic center of San Francisco. And they are 925 feet tall. I've got a picture of them. And they have risen 925 feet from sea level. And the sea, the Pacific Ocean is probably, I think, a little under 2 miles from this spot. And there you see the 2 peaks. You see that woman. It looks like a woman in a pink jacket, walking down from the South Peak, and what we're looking at there is the North Peak, and then of course off to the right is downtown San Francisco. So we gathered on the South Peak, so that was right where we gathered, and like I said, there were hundreds of people there. And it was dark when we gathered, and then it slowly got light, but it was one of those days when it was very foggy in San Francisco. So we never got the view of downtown because we were in the mist. And as I like to say, it truly was a mystical experience for us up there on Twin Peaks for the Harmonic Convergence 38 plus years ago. And I remember it was also on a Sunday. And after we came down from there, a number of us went out to breakfast. And then after breakfast, we gathered at the office and we had our Sunday gathering. So it was quite a day for us. I was really happy to see so many of us had actually made it and gotten up that early to be there at dawn, which I don't know what it is around August. It must be about 6:30 or something. We must have been up there at 5:30, 6 o'clock a.m. to be there for that dawn observance. So the lesson of the day that falls on August 16th, lesson which was yesterday, is God has condemned me not, no more do I. And since we were a Course in Miracles organization, I wanted to focus whatever we did on that lesson. And some people questioned that they didn't think it was an appropriate lesson for us to use on this day, this Harmonic Convergence Day. But I really got the guidance from the Holy Spirit that it was the perfect lesson to use. God has condemned me not, no more do I. Because the old age that was passing away was an age where we had a conceptualization of a God who stood as a final judge and jury for us at the end of our lives. That was the dominant idea of God in the previous age. It was probably starting to change around then, but the New Age would have an idea, a conceptualization of God, more like the A Course in Miracles conceptualization of God, which is God being love and God loving us and we loving God, a God of love, not a God of judgment and a God of condemnation. So it was perfect to really believe there and affirm and channel in the energy of God has condemned me not, no more do I. If God hasn't condemned me, we certainly do not need to condemn ourselves. And many thought of themselves as condemned by that old version of God. I remember thinking of myself as condemned. I remember thinking that if the traditional version of God and life was true, there was no way I was going to get into heaven after I made my transition, because there was no way I could follow all those rules and be good the way that I was supposed to be good. And if God was going to judge me, well, then I wasn't going to pass that judgment. Now, I questioned that and I questioned that assertion, but that was the way God was presented. And of course, I was very happy to study and embrace A Course in Miracles that had this new conceptualization of God, that God was not condemning. And if God didn't condemn us, then we certainly didn't need to condemn ourselves. Now, Course in Miracles, takes this teaching further and says actually that we actually make ourselves sick and dead, and we make others sick and dead because we're trying to punish ourselves before God does it. So we have so thoroughly taken in this idea of a punishing God that's going to punish us that we, in our insanity, decide to punish ourselves to mitigate the punishment that God is going to give to us. And we're going to take God's supreme role away from him. We're going to usurp the throne of the Creator. We're going to be God. we're going to be the Lucifer that fell and wanted all the powers of God. So we're going to take those powers of God that we've attributed to him, which is punishment, and we're going to punish ourselves before God gets the chance to. And that was what was in the reading there that Reverend Paula read. It's a very challenging teaching. And it says, but if he's talking about us, the children of God, but if he chooses death himself, his weakness is his strength. Now has he given himself what God would give to him, and thus entirely usurped the throne of his creator. So that's what all the sickness and death and problems that we see in the world that we bring into our own lives, that's what they're all about. They're about us being God the way we've conceptualized God to be, a God of punishment and a God of condemnation. And that's why it was so important for the New Age, maybe ushered in on August 16th, 1987, to really take in the idea that God has not condemned us. And so we do not need to condemn ourselves. And that's what I led up there on that day on August 16th, 1987. I led a meditation, visualization about channeling in that idea of a God that did not judge us, a God that did not condemn us. And so we had no reason to condemn ourselves. If God wasn't doing it, no reason for us to do it. We don't have to do it anymore. That was the enlightenment that I really worked at, and I think many people worked at bringing into the realm on that day, on the day of the harmonic convergence. And I think it's great. It's great that we don't have to have this idea of a judging and condemning God anymore. And I thank God for that, literally. I thank God that I have liberated myself, enlightened myself from those ideas that just left me condemned. I also want to note that on August 16th, in 1977, at the young age of 42 years old, Elvis Presley passed away. And that's a significant event that happened on August 16th, too. And I don't know how that correlates to my moving to San Francisco or the harmonic convergence, but I always remember that all those things happened on August 16th. So possibly there's a correlation there somehow, somewhere. I don't know. I think it's important, of course, that we know, as Course in Miracles teaches, that everything that goes on in our lives, we're doing to ourselves. You know, it's one of those 100% responsibility disciplines. And there are other spiritual teachings, of course, that have that 100% responsibility idea. But there aren't too many disciplines that really engage us in the question of why. Why are we doing this to ourselves? Okay, so we're doing this to ourselves, but why? There must be a reason. So all sickness and death and any appearance of lack and pain are all our attempts to punish ourselves, and that is a thoroughly insane idea. But in that section of the teacher's manual that Reverend Paula read so well, which is How is Healing Accomplished, or a part of How is Healing Accomplished, it really does engage in why. In my first decade of my study of A Course in Miracles, I read that section and the sections around it, which are really all about healing, over and over and over and over again. And I did that for a number of reasons. One, healing was always my primary purpose for studying A Course in Miracles. I was attracted to it or hooked into it because on page 2 of the book that I was reading, Miracle Principle number 24 said, miracles enable man to heal the sick and raise the dead because he made sickness and death himself and could therefore abolish both. And that is really what grabbed me and hooked me. So any course that was going to teach us how to heal the sick and raise the dead and was bold enough to state that so clearly on page number 2, I mean, it just caught my attention. That was worth my time and effort and energy. And I had healing issues that I was working on, and wanted to apply the course principle to myself, but also I wanted to be able to be a healing influence for others and to be a healing influence in the world. Now, when you look at that section that Reverend Paula read, which is the manual, section 5, it starts with this statement. It says, healing involves an understanding of what the illusion of sickness is for. Healing is impossible without this. So that's an interesting statement. I don't know how many Course in Miracles students have really embraced that idea. I think A Course in Miracles people and a lot of spiritual people are using spiritual energy and light and love to help them and to extend healing to the appearances or in their own minds when something is challenging them. But I don't know how often they actually engage themselves in the idea of why. Why are we doing this insane thing? Why are we manifesting this healing? But it states right there in that passage that I just read that we have to understand why we're doing it, and that healing is going to be impossible unless we understand why. So, A Course in Miracles is engaged in the why. So, today or yesterday, when I was getting ready to prepare this talk and thinking about this section and remembering how abstract and difficult this section was for me, I also reminded myself of how abstract and difficult this section is probably for a lot of people. Probably most A Course in Miracles students have a great deal of difficulty with these sections about healing that are in the teacher's manual because they're complex. And then I also remembered that most Course in Miracles students probably have not read those sections nearly as much as I've read them. I don't know how many times I've read, 100 or more times reading those with a really open mind, trying to understand just what it was trying to say. And so I do focus in it on it a lot, and I talk about these ideas on and off, and I have for years. And so those of you who've been around for a while probably heard me talk about these ideas before, of course. But I remembered this statement: teachers must be patient and repeat their lessons until they are learned. So I'm patient. I'm repeating the lessons, and I'm not only repeating them for all of you, I'm repeating them for me. I need to learn these, and they're difficult and abstract for me to learn. The illusion of sickness appears in our insanity. We believe that God is going to punish us, and so we are punishing ourselves before God does it. We are punishing ourselves to mitigate the punishment that we think God is going to give us. That's why. That's the why. And if healing is impossible unless we know the why, then we have to get comfortable with that and embrace that and open ourselves up to it. We're trying to mitigate the punishment that we think God is going to give to us. I looked up the definition of the word mitigate. It means make less severe or serious or painful. So somehow we believe that if we punish ourselves, it'll be less severe than the punishment that God is going to give us. It won't be quite as serious. It won't be quite as painful. And that's one of the reasons why we do it. So we usurp the throne of our Creator, punish ourselves with sickness, death, and problems because we somehow believe that our punishment of ourselves we will be able to endure, but the punishment that God might give us, that would be way worse. And then there was that passage. I already read this, but let's read it again. It says, "Now has he given himself what God would give to him, and thus entirely usurped the throne of his Creator." So we give ourselves what we believe is ultimate power, except God has no desire to punish us. Not even a thought of punishment, because the thought of punishment could not even enter God's mind. So I understand that this is not the way spiritual healing is related to in a lot of other disciplines and thought systems and religions, even those that are similar to A Course in Miracles in many ways. Our Christian evangelical sisters and brothers, I mean, they have strong healing tendencies and they have strong Bible-based ideas, but they don't, as far as I can tell, really spend too much energy engaging themselves in why. They might think we're doing it to themselves. I don't even think that idea is all that strong. What they see is sickness and death and pain and problems are out there in the world, and our spiritual connection to God is a way to confront those and combat those and heal from those. So that's generally the way spiritual healing works, I think, in the evangelical community. In the New Thought community, they're engaging with this idea that we're doing this to ourselves. But even that doesn't quite go far enough unless you really engage with the idea of why you're doing this to yourself. And I started to, just think about that. And I wondered if there were any other spiritual programs or thought systems that really engaged in the why as much as A Course in Miracles does. And I wasn't able to come up with any offhand. Perhaps there are some, none came to mind. And then I thought, well, perhaps this is one of those unique ways that A Course in Miracles is really distinct and really different, is that it engages us in the why. Not just that we are doing this to ourselves, but it teaches us why we're doing it. And then it tells us that unless we get that why, we're not actually going to be able to heal. So, as I said, other disciplines definitely teach that we're doing this to ourselves. Course in Miracles says the secret of salvation is but this, that you are doing this unto yourself. Whatever seems to be the cause of any pain and suffering you feel, this still is true. However, it doesn't stop there. It engages us in that why question, why we are doing that. And I think that might be a real unique thing about A Course in Miracles. So don't try to mitigate the punishment you think God is going to give to you. Remember the message of the Harmonic Convergence. So back there in 1987, God has condemned me not, no more do I. We don't have to condemn ourselves because we really have embraced the idea of a loving God. And that's the idea I worked so hard to channel into the realm on top of Twin Peaks 38 years ago. And you can help me channel that idea into the realm one more time right now. Amen.
Hey, women. Hey, people. Woke up my eyes to see. Woke up my head to beat. Woke up my heart to be free. Woke up our world, you and me. I've opened up my heart, I'm at the start. I save the world, I save the world, I save the world, I save